The hum of alien machinery filled the room as Zara adjusted the comms device in her ear. The training hall was a vast expanse of cold steel and high-tech displays, a place where the galaxy's finest combatants learned how to kill. But it wasn't just any combat they studied, it was humanity they had come to kill. Zara's chest tightened as the reality of her mission settled in. She wasn't here to teach, or to train. She was here to observe, to report, and, if necessary, to eliminate the threat. "Are you ready, human combat specialist?" a voice crackled in her ear. Zara didn't flinch. She was used to the formalities, the cold distance of a mission that required every bit of composure she could muster. Ready. The doors to the main hall slid open with a hiss, and Zara walked into the arena. The room was filled with beings of various shapes and sizes, each one an alien species from a different part of the galaxy. They were all gathered in a semicircle around a massive screen, watching intently. The latest footage played, humans in combat situations, executing perfect maneuvers, devastating and precise. Zara's eyes narrowed. They were watching simulations, but she knew this wasn't just any training. "Is this the latest footage?" she asked the officer standing beside her. "Yes, it is," the officer replied, but there was something unsettling in his tone. "This is the new generation of combat strategy. A lesson in the art of killing humans." Zara clenched her fists, the weight of her humanity settling in her bones. These beings, students, soldiers, whatever they were being trained to eliminate her kind. She had trained humans to fight, but she had never thought she would be on the receiving end of it. "Pause it," she ordered. The screen flickered to a halt, and the room fell into silence. "Who's responsible for these tactics?" Zara's voice was sharp. The officer hesitated, then nodded toward a section of the room where a tall, imposing figure stood, a humanoid with dark skin and iridescent eyes. Captain Zulak, the commander of the training facility. His reputation preceded him. Cold, calculated, and utterly convinced that humanity was the greatest threat to the galaxy. "Captain Zulak," the officer said, his tone dropping. "He's the one orchestrating these methods." Zara's gaze met Zulak's. There was something about the way he stood, his posture, the calculated stillness in his movements, that unsettled her. He was studying the students, but his eyes never left the screen. His voice, when he spoke, was calm, almost detached. "Are we ready for the next simulation?" he asked, his gaze still fixed on the image of humans in combat. Zara's blood ran cold. The fight they were about to watch wasn't just theoretical. It was real. She had seen these methods before, human techniques, but twisted. The humanity she had worked so hard to protect was now being weaponized. "Commander," Zara spoke, her voice steady but firm. These aren't just simulations, are they? These tactics, these are human tactics. Where did you get them?" Zulak's eyes flicked toward her, the faintest of smiles tugging at the corners of his lips. "Do you not recognize them, human combat specialist? These are the tactics your kind uses. We've merely adapted them, perfected them. The students here need to understand the efficiency of your species." Zara's heart skipped a beat. Adapted them. They had learned human tactics, taught them. But to what end? She was no longer just an observer. She was part of the test, the experiment. This wasn't just about training. This was about something darker. Something personal. "Pause the simulation," Zara demanded again, this time with more force. "I need answers now." Zulak did not flinch. His eyes met hers with an intensity that spoke volumes. The room seemed to shrink as the air between them thickened. "You have questions," he said, his voice like ice. "Then you'll have to find your answers, just like everyone else. You're here to observe, to report. Nothing more." Zara's hand tightened around the comms device, her mind racing. There was something wrong with this picture. The tactics, the cruelty, the precision, it wasn't just about training. It was about something else. A message, perhaps. But she couldn't understand it yet. Not fully. "I'm not here just to observe," Zara replied, her voice dropping low, full of a quiet fury that only a human could hold. "I'm here because I know your people are using our methods against us. This isn't training anymore. This is war." Zulak's smile widened, but there was no humor in it. "War? You think we're at war, specialist? This is merely preparation. We have learned from the best, your species has shown us how to fight. Now we are simply putting it into practice." Zara's thoughts whirled as she took in the implications. This wasn't just a military exercise. This was a carefully crafted message: humans were no longer the apex predators. They were becoming the prey. And the galaxy was preparing to hunt them. Suddenly, the screen flickered again. New footage. A series of human combatants, executing deadly precision with movements that were disturbingly familiar. The tactics were hers. The fight sequences were eerily similar to the ones she had taught during covert training missions. But this time, it was different. This time, the humans on screen weren't fighting for survival, they were killing. And it was happening at an alarming scale. Zara's heart raced as she recognized the face of one of the human combatants in the footage. It was her own face. Her tactics. Her movements. But they were being used to eliminate everything she had ever fought for. It wasn't just a simulation anymore, it was real. And it was happening across the galaxy. "That," Zara whispered, her voice trembling with realization, "that's me. That's my training." Zulak didn't respond, but his gaze told her everything she needed to know. The human face on the screen, the face she had trained to fight, to survive, was now being used as a weapon against her. Zara's hand reached instinctively for the sidearm at her waist. She was a trained combatant. She had been in countless life-or-death situations. But this was different. She wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting for humanity's very existence. And as she stood in that cold, sterile hall, surrounded by beings who saw humanity as a threat, Zara realized one thing: the galaxy was about to learn just how dangerous humans could be. And she would be the one to show them. Zara couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The footage on the screen, her own face, performing cold, efficient kills, haunted her. She had trained countless soldiers in human combat tactics, but never had she imagined seeing her own methods turned against her. And the most disturbing part? It wasn't a mistake. Whoever had created these videos had carefully studied human behavior, learned from it, and twisted it into something dark. Something deadly. The halls of the Galactic Species Combat Training School buzzed with quiet conversations as the students dispersed after the training session. Zara's eyes never left the screen as she processed the implications of what she had just seen. The shock was wearing off, replaced with a steady, growing fury. Someone, somewhere, had taken her knowledge, the knowledge of humanity's resilience, and weaponized it. Her comms device buzzed softly. "Zara, are you still there?" It was Lieutenant Soren, her contact back home. He had been briefed on her mission, and his voice cut through the chaos of her thoughts like a lifeline. "I'm still here," Zara responded, her voice cold. "But things are worse than we thought." "What happened?" Soren asked, a note of concern in his voice. Zara glanced around the room. No one was paying her any attention, but she kept her voice low anyway. "The training videos, they're using human tactics, but not to train. To kill. They've taken our methods and perfected them, but this isn't just about combat training. They're being taught how to hunt us." Soren's voice crackled over the line. "What do you mean? Is the footage genuine?" Zara hesitated. "It's not just footage. It's real. They're using real footage of humans, my footage, carrying out executions, following the same techniques I've taught to other soldiers. But it's twisted. And it's not just for training." She looked at the now blank screen. The memory of her face, her body moving with deadly precision, flashed in her mind again. "I've got to get into the archives," she muttered under her breath, ignoring Soren's question. She needed answers. This wasn't just a rogue faction, this was systematic, deliberate. Whoever had created these videos wanted her, wanted humanity, erased. Without another word, Zara moved quickly through the hall, her boots echoing softly on the metal floor. She needed access to the facility's archives, the heart of their operation. Only there would she find out who was behind this. She arrived at a set of secured doors, their cold metallic surface gleaming in the harsh light. Her credentials, Human Combat Specialist, flashed green on the panel as she approached, and the doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the flickering glow of countless servers lit the darkened room. Zara's heart raced, but her hand remained steady as she made her way to the central console. She keyed in her temporary access code, then held her breath as the system hummed to life. The search bar flickered, then came to life with a list of files. She began skimming the titles, her eyes narrowing as she found something that made her blood run cold: Project Human Annihilation, Phase 1. She clicked it open. The files that followed were an extensive record of human combat tactics, but they were far more than just theoretical. The methods were being implemented, executed in real-time scenarios. Entire fleets of mercenaries had been trained to eliminate human targets using these precise strategies. And in the depths of these documents, Zara found a disturbing pattern. These methods were not just being used against humans. They were being perfected, tailored specifically to the weaknesses of human soldiers. She sat back in her chair, the weight of the truth settling in. These weren't just military tactics. They were a blueprint for humanity's extinction. Zara, Soren's voice came through the comms again, this time tinged with urgency. What are you seeing? What did you find? Zara leaned back, her mind spinning. It's worse than I thought. There's an entire project, a systematic effort to eliminate humans by using our own tactics. They've adapted everything we've ever done, and now they're implementing it, against us. Who is behind it? Soren asked. Zara's eyes landed on a familiar name in one of the reports. Zulak, she muttered. It's all him. Soren was silent for a moment, then spoke again, his voice steady but tinged with concern. Zulak? The commander of the training facility? Zara clenched her fists. The same. He's been training alien soldiers for years, but now it's clear, he's using humanity's methods for something far darker. He's planning something. She scanned through the documents further. It wasn't just about eliminating soldiers. This was personal. There were detailed records of key human figures, military strategies, and movements, her movements. And then, in the final file, she found it. A directive, marked with a red stamp: Activate Project Human Eradication. Full-scale assault to begin. Zara's breath caught in her throat. Full-scale assault? She had to stop this, before it was too late. But she couldn't do it alone. There was too much at stake, and Zulak was too powerful. She closed the file, standing up quickly, her mind racing. Soren, I need extraction. Now. Extraction? Zara, you can't be serious. You haven't gathered enough intel. I've got enough, she interrupted, her voice hard. I've got everything I need to expose them. But I can't do it from here. The urgency in her tone cut through the static. She could hear Soren hesitate on the other end. All right. We'll have a team ready. Just, be careful. Zara disconnected the comms and stood in the darkened room for a moment, her fingers lightly grazing the edge of the console. The pieces were falling into place, but she still didn't have all the answers. She needed more, something to tie Zulak to the larger conspiracy. She needed evidence that would force the galaxy to listen. Her eyes darted back to the file. She could feel the weight of her decision, the choices she had to make. But one thing was clear now: Zulak had started a war, one that was aimed directly at her kind. And Zara would stop it, no matter the cost. Her mission had shifted from observation to survival. The clock was ticking, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming for it. But Zara Thorne would make sure they soon would. Zara's pulse raced as she made her way through the labyrinth of corridors, the weight of the data she'd uncovered gnawing at her every step. The mission had escalated beyond anything she had prepared for. What had started as a simple observation had turned into a race against time to stop an impending genocide. Her comms crackled, a familiar voice breaking through her focus. "Zara, are you on track for extraction?" Soren's voice was calm but urgent. "I'm close," Zara replied, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "But we've got bigger problems. Zulak isn't just training these soldiers to kill us, he's orchestrating an entire war. The footage, the files, it's all leading to a full-scale assault on humanity." She moved faster, her footsteps echoing off the cold walls. "I need to take him down. Now." "Zara, you need to be careful," Soren warned. "We can't risk an all-out confrontation. Not without backup." "There's no time for backup," Zara snapped. "I've got what I need." "I'll force his hand." The line went silent. She knew Soren was about to protest, but Zara didn't wait for him to finish. She was already at the main control room, her hand hovering over the door's access panel. She could hear voices inside, the sounds of Zulak's inner circle coordinating final preparations for their mission. Zara took a deep breath, then slammed her hand down on the panel. The door hissed open, and she stepped inside, her weapon drawn. The room fell silent as the sharp click of her boots on the metal floor reverberated. Zulak stood at the far end, his back to her, staring out at the holographic map of the galaxy that filled the far wall. His face was unreadable, the image of cold calculation she had grown to expect from him. But when he turned, the faintest flicker of recognition crossed his eyes. Well, human combat specialist," Zulak said, his voice smooth, almost amused. "Did you come to join us, or did you finally decide to show your true colors?" Zara didn't flinch. "I came to stop you." Zulak's smile was barely there, a thin line that betrayed nothing. "Stop me? You're alone. You've gathered intel, but you're out of your league here." Behind him, the others in the room stood frozen, their eyes darting between Zara and their commander. The tension was palpable. Zara's instincts screamed at her to move fast. Zulak wasn't just a threat, he was a symbol of the galaxy's warped perception of humanity, and he had to fall. "You think these tactics will save you?" Zara said, taking a slow step forward. "You think using our methods, twisted into something monstrous, will give you an edge? You're wrong. You've underestimated humanity." Zulak raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Underestimate? Hardly. I've spent years studying your species, understanding your strengths and weaknesses. And now, we have perfected your methods. You should be proud, Zara. You've given the galaxy the blueprint to end your kind." Zara's grip tightened around her weapon. "I didn't teach humanity how to destroy, I taught them to survive. To adapt. And if you think you can wipe us out with your little army, you're about to find out just how wrong you are." The silence that followed was thick. Zara could feel the weight of her words hanging in the air, but Zulak was unfazed. He motioned to the soldiers behind him, who took a step forward, their weapons raised. "You talk of survival," Zulak said, his voice dripping with disdain. "But all I see is a human who has learned nothing. You fight for survival, yes, but only because you know you're already doomed. I'm giving you an end, Zara. A quick, efficient one." "Enough talk," Zara growled. She moved faster than anyone could react, the sudden motion shocking even Zulak. Her weapon discharged in a blinding flash, taking down the first soldier with precise accuracy. The others scrambled, drawing their weapons, but Zara was already 2 steps ahead. She was a blur, darting from cover to cover, her mind calculating every movement, every angle. Zulak watched, his hands folded behind his back, calm as ever. He was not surprised by Zara's skill, he had studied her for too long to be surprised by anything she did. But he was confident. Confident that no matter how many humans Zara took down, it wouldn't change the outcome. He had already set the galaxy's course. Zara's eyes locked on him across the room. There was no turning back now. She moved, fast as lightning, charging toward him, weaving through the chaos of battle. She could feel her heart pounding, her breath steady despite the adrenaline. Every muscle in her body screamed for action, every fiber ready to explode. As she neared Zulak, he stepped forward, raising his hand in a calm gesture. He wasn't flinching, wasn't even reaching for his weapon. He believed she was too predictable, too human in her movements. But Zara was already thinking 2 steps ahead. She dropped low, sliding beneath his outstretched arm, and as she did, her elbow collided with his side, forcing him to stagger back. Zulak regained his balance almost immediately, but Zara was already upon him, using his brief moment of hesitation to her advantage. "Your arrogance will be your downfall," Zara hissed. Zulak's eyes glinted with something like amusement. "It's not arrogance if it's the truth." With a swift motion, he lunged at her, but Zara was faster. She pivoted, knocking him off balance, and shoved him into the console behind him. The impact sent sparks flying, and for a moment, Zulak's confident demeanor faltered. "You don't understand," Zara said, breathing hard. "This isn't a game. You're not just fighting soldiers. You're fighting humanity's will to survive." For the first time, Zara saw doubt flicker in Zulak's eyes. He was no longer in control. The room was chaos, soldiers scattered, trying to regroup. Zara's movements were precise, deadly, every action a testament to everything she had fought for. She wasn't just fighting to win, she was fighting for a future that didn't include the extinction of humanity. Zulak growled, pushing himself off the console. "You're a fool if you think you've won." "I haven't won yet," Zara replied, her voice calm, "but I will. And humanity will be here to stay. No matter what it takes." With a final, fluid motion, she delivered a swift strike to Zulak's chest, knocking him unconscious. His body crumpled to the floor. The room fell silent. The remaining soldiers hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Zara stood over Zulak's defeated form, her chest heaving with exertion. "We're not done yet," she muttered. "But this is a start." As she left the room, the weight of her mission hung heavy. There was still much to be done, but for the first time since her arrival, Zara felt a glimmer of hope. She had struck a blow against the galaxy's perception of humanity, and no one would forget it.